You doing well? How was your Thanksgiving? Good. Good. All right. Let me open this up and we'll get to it.
Brandon,
Yes, ma'am.
Brenda says she can't hear you.
Okay. Is this any better, Brenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I pull my mic down, say something, if I talk too fast, say something. It's not going to bother me. We're all family, so it's just a big sentence class. Okay? All right. So, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 1. I want to kind of lay some groundwork first so you all know where we're headed in the next 4 weeks with myself and Bob and Tom and Rex.
Where are you headed? Where are you headed?
I'm going to tell you. So, before I get into the passage, it's going to be Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. But before we get there, I just want to tell you how things are going to kind of unfold so you guys can see. And as you know, I speak, and then Bob and Tom and Rex, you can also get a grasp of how things are fitting together. It's basically the first 2 chapters of Matthew. I will be doing the first 17 verses. Bob will be finishing off that chapter after me. Tom will be doing, I believe it's to 12 of chapter 2. Is that correct, Tom? And then Rex will be finishing off that chapter. So it really fits in line well. It's just the first 2 chapters. So we as a group can see how this fits together and really get a very good grasp, like Pastor Rob said, of Christ and His coming and what it means to us and the way we should view it. In order to help us in our viewing of this genealogy, as we look at this, most people pass them over. It's just some names. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Let's just skip chapter or verse 18 and move on. Well, I hope today that we'll be able to look at this genealogy and understand why it's here. Understand the people that are behind it. We're not going to go through every one of them because we just don't have time and it's not necessary for what we're doing this morning. But I want us to view it like the Jews, the Hebrews at the time would have viewed it. Because that's who Matthew's writing to. He's writing to Jewish people who he's speaking to them in a way they're going to understand. Something that's going to get their attention. So we aren't Hebrews and we don't practice the Jewish faith. So how do we relate? Well, here's one way. We as Americans, some of us, like to study American history. We remember dates and people. When we remember, or somebody says the name George Washington, we have a flood of stuff in our mind that reminds us who that person is, what he did, how he affected the nation that we live in. When we talk about dates, the 1940s, 41 to 45, we have specific things we think about when someone gives us those dates. Abraham Lincoln, we have a relation to him in what he has done for our nation here. And we think back on that. We get excited, some of us, on how that person affects the way that we live now. Some of us go so far as to study history. Me, myself, because I am related to a gentleman, my grandfather, who fought in World War II, I have something I'm doing right now that commemorates not only himself, but my father-in-law, Lou, is not here. Okay, well, it's still commemorating him too, but I was kind of hoping to look at him and he's not here. So, for me, what I'm doing now, and this is just myself, I like history of World War II because it relates to me as a person because of my grandfather. So what I've done is I've got something, and it's basically a part of a firearm, and it has a barrel on it. I'm going to put it together and make it into a full firearm, but right now it's in pieces. Why am I doing that? Well, there's a number on the back section that relates to the exact date to when it was manufactured. To me, that means something because I know where my grandfather was in 1943. I know what he was doing, and I know what's going on in this nation. Likewise, the barrel that's attached to it, it has a date of 51. I know what was happening in 1951. I know how it relates to my father-in-law. I've heard the stories. And so to me, when I look at this item, I can literally project myself and understand what this means for me because of the relationship it has for my past. If I don't understand my past, then stuff like this aren't going to make any sense. Now, that's all fine and good. America's great. Fine. But I'm going to tell you right now, this nation will pass away. We get so excited about the place we live here and the things that it means for us and this freedom we have, and yes, those are wonderful things. However, the kingdom of God is greater. It will last forever. And for some reason, we don't want to study it like we study the history of America. Some of us, I'm generalizing. But do we know, could somebody say, off the top of their head, what some of these people, can you put up the first slide, Daniel? You might not be able to read all of them. It wasn't really up there to read, it's more just kind of an idea to see kind of the flow. But there are some people, I don't know that everybody would be able to speak something about what they've done. What about the major ones? Do we know the significance of David? I would hope so. Abraham, I would really hope so. How about Manasseh? We'll talk about him later. Do we know the significance of what he did or what he caused with the nation of Israel? This is a much greater kingdom. This is a forever eternal kingdom, and we should be more excited than we are about America for this kingdom that we who have accepted Jesus are a part of. So today, that is what I want to do. We're not going to look at the passage first, we're going to look at the people first. Because I hope when we look at the passage, what does it mean? What do these people relate to me? Because these are the fathers of our faith. The fathers of our eternal life. Not because they save us, but because God chose to use these individuals to lead up to the Messiah, Jesus. It's kind of funny, I got this off of a software program. But you see how Jesus is in yellow? My wife thought that was funny. Is it you? Maybe it was Daniel. Somebody thought it was funny. Yeah, so he stands out. That's pretty cool. It's him that we're really concerned about. But let's stay in the time of what Matthew's trying to discuss with us. Okay. So, people. All right, next slide. Let's talk about Abraham first. He's really important. And I'm going to share a little bit. Let's get the picture up here. This is just an image somebody had drawn, I don't know how long ago. It's basically, you see Abraham there going to sacrifice his son, and then an angel there sent, obviously, to stop him. I put pictures on all the people we're going to talk about. Through the class that I've been going through lately with New Testament, I've really get this understanding, and not that it wasn't real before, but it's more real. And I think sometimes we have a hard time. You know, I was talking about the thing I'm going to make for my grandfather, or not for them, but in honor of them, and my father-in-law. I can hold that. And I don't know if maybe because we are people who are more concerned with tangible things, that when it requires faith and it's not so tangible, that we have a hard time really grasping the reality that's here. And I hope that in some small way that as I talk, you can look at this image and kind of, hopefully it'll make it more real to you. So Abraham. Pastor Rob read from chapter 12. I'm not going to have you guys turn there. I'm just going to talk about them. Let's just listen. Let's just talk about these people. So, Abraham. He was asked to go to a place he didn't know by God. Now, this is interesting because the gods he was worshiping before in the land of Ur, they didn't speak. They were mute. The Bible calls them mute. The only one true God is Yahweh. He speaks. And he spoke to Abram at the time and said, you need to go. Leave all of your family, all of your gods, everything that you have, and you need to go to a place I will tell you. And he goes. He promises him not only land, but many, many descendants. He promises him in his line to have kings. But what we miss sometimes as people who look at Abraham is his wife was barren. They didn't have any children. And so God enters into this covenant with a man and a woman who cannot produce and promises something they cannot do. He alone can do it. So he promises them this. It gets even better. He has this child, Isaac. Then he's asked to take this child whom he loves, whom God has promised him, and he's asked to sacrifice him and kill him on an altar. God then stops him. Later we realize that Abraham reconciled in himself that even if God had allowed him to kill Isaac, he would have been brought back to life. This is great faith. The point of this isn't so much the fact that God tried to have him, or wanted to have him kill his son. It's that, what did Abraham do with it? Well, Abraham had to look back and remember a previous promise. and say, you know what, I believe God so much that even if I follow through with what He's done, what He's asked me to do, I know that because of what He's promised before and the multiple descendants, that He will take care of it. He will bring him back to life. This is the man that God chose to use to start this line. Before Abraham, it was just the world. He spoke to the world in general form. Now it's Abraham and his descendants that God chooses to deal with from now on. So if we try and relate it to the way we might understand as maybe Americans, you might talk about the founding fathers of the country and what they did to put this in place. And sometimes we think that's great. But how much greater is this supposed to be? Some guys, yeah, maybe led by the Lord, but they weren't setting up salvation. This man God chose to use to set up and start salvation for the world. This is where we start. Next slide, Daniel. Okay, you can see the arrows. We'll flip back and forth where we'll see where we're going every time so you guys can get an idea of how this works out. Rahab is next. Now, Abraham, I'm going to make sure we understand. Now, he wasn't a Hebrew. We call him a Hebrew, but he was called out of the land of Ur. Okay? We become a line of Hebrews. Rahab. Let's talk about Rahab next. All right, there she is. This is the image of her, and you can see the spies going up the stairs, hiding. What did she do? Well, I kind of spoke about it a little bit. But you have Joshua, who the Lord tells them to take over Jericho. They send in spies first to kind of case the joint. He sends them in. They get found kind of quickly, I guess you could say, and they go to hide, and they find Rahab. And she, based on her faith and what she believes of God, decides that, yes, I believe that God will come and He will win and destroy, and victory will be on Him. So I'm going to choose my side right now, and I'm going to hide you in the faith that because of this act of choosing God, there's going to be a saving of me and my family. This is what Rahab did. Now, the interesting thing about genealogies, in the time, can you go back, Daniel? Sorry. In the time that Matthew's writing, typically women were not in them. She also is a Gentile. So I want to make sure we understand that this is a woman who typically wouldn't be in there, and she is not a Hebrew. But we'll remember that for later because this goes into what Matthew is trying to show who Jesus is here for. Okay, go to the one after Rahab. This is Ruth. So let's go to the next slide and let's look at Ruth as we talk. This is her gleaning the fields. Ruth is one of my favorite stories. It's because of what she says that I think is so amazing. So Naomi says to her two daughter-in-laws after they have lost everything they've had, all three of them, lost everything they had. At the time, their worth, woman's worth this time in the world, was based upon what the man could get for them. Not that they couldn't do anything, but that's how worth was based. So here we have these three women who really have nothing. They don't even have honor. And Naomi says, go back. I cannot produce any more men for you to have children with. Go back to your families and your gods and be with them because they'll have somebody you can have worth with, basically. Ruth says, no. I want to go and be with your land, your people, and your God. She makes that statement very seriously, choosing where to be. Then we have the whole thing of her working with Boaz, working out the relationship, and becoming married and having children. And literally, in the end of Ruth, it says that she is in the line of David. And that's what we see in the next slide. She is someone who, both Rahab and her, who are pulled in by faith and becoming a part of the line of the Messiah and being named here as women, which typically was not done. God does not discount anybody. I don't want to go too far because we're going to talk about this when we get the whole genealogy, but you've got to remember that this is not normal. But these women also, their faith, you could say, was not normal. They did things beyond what most people did and continue to not do. Okay, David. Let's talk about David then. And we'll kind of do Solomon somewhat. This is a picture. David is on the right. Solomon is kneeling there, getting his coronation, becoming king. So David, what did David do? Well, David was a king. The Jews at the time, when they read Matthew, you wouldn't even have told them that David the king. You wouldn't have had to do that. They would have known who that was. For us, sometimes I think because we're not them, we are so far removed from the time that we got to be reminded. So he is a king. He is a king not like Saul, who was before him. He was picked young and small, and people would not have thought that he would have been the one. But God chose him because of his heart. Because of his heart and what he did. It's interesting that he did many, many negative things. Many things like Bathsheba and killing Uriah and those things. But if you look at something like the book of Chronicles, even though Solomon actually built the temple, the building of the temple is attributed to David in Chronicles, not to Solomon. Because as far as God was concerned, he viewed David and his heart as desiring to build this temple as important. Heart of the matter. So, with David, I just lost my train of thought. So, with David in this temple, in this house he wanted to build, he says to God, I want to build you a house. God says what? No, I will make you a house. You and your family, a descendant of you, will always be on the throne of my kingdom. I love that because we have a man who is offering the best he has to a wonderful God who has always been faithful. And he wants the best for God. Not that he needs it, and David probably understood that, but still, he wants to offer this thing as an offering. But God turns it around and he says, no, I'm going to offer you something you have never thought of before. I'm going to make your name great. There is not a person even today, if you were talking to a Hebrew, and especially a person who studies Judaism today, that you couldn't say David to, and that's not what they would think about. That's what they're going to think about, the King David. They're going to think about what he did in his kingdom. You know, between David and Solomon, the kingdom grew so large, it was never that size again. To this day, that when they talk about getting their kingdom back, because this is not what they want it to be right now. They want the lines that Solomon and David had. That's the land they want. Because that's what they refer to as the golden age. It is through David and Solomon, these two men here, that this happens. And this is what they understand. This is what they think about when they hear these names. Just like when we hear names of our past, they think about these men. Let's move on. The next one is Hezekiah. This is the king of the southern kingdom of Judea. This is after the kingdoms had split. And this is even after Assyria had taken the northern kingdom away. They had gone into exile. Hezekiah is ruling the southern kingdom of Judea, and he has a very difficult time with a certain ruler. And they're always coming in to Jerusalem and Israel to take it over. And Hezekiah is a great man. What he's doing here is he takes down the Asherah poles and the altars that were in the area. What had happened is Israel, both southern and northern kingdoms, had gone so astray that they had built up other altars to other gods around the area, to the point where they were worshiping not Yahweh in the temple. They were worshiping, others too. And it got to the point where if you look at the book of Hosea, they had actually melded Yahweh and Baal together and made it seem like this was one individual God, and that we were worshiping them together. And that was not what God says to do. It is Him only. There is only one true God. There is no other. Not that there are less ones. I'm telling you, there are no other gods but Him. Anything else is you're worshiping a stump or a tree or whatnot. And so Hezekiah takes all these things down around the whole nation. And here comes this man, I think it's Sargo the second king, and he comes in and he tries to take over Jerusalem, and Hezekiah prays. And for a time, it stopped. There's a miracle that happens, and his taking over the country is stopped. And so Hezekiah did wonderful things for the nation. Wonderful things by God for the nation. Next slide. So this man, this man is not Hezekiah. This man is Manasseh, and this man was the worst king the southern kingdom of Judah ever had. Because of him, solely because of him, this is why Judah goes into exile. But in 586, this is why. It is because of this man. He ends up where what he does is he builds back up what his grandfather had pulled down. And here we can see him. He is worshiping at a high place. This is not in the temple. This is a high place built up. And this is the way that they would worship other gods at the time. And so he did that everywhere. And what's interesting is he had the longest reign. So it makes me think, of all the times, and we'll get to some of this stuff later, of all the times where the Israelites, the Hebrews, are concerned for what they are as a nation and who they're worshiping and their God who puts their name on, his name on their temple, they apparently were not concerned with what he was doing at that time. They just let him go. Here we have a very wicked man in line with Christ, but a king. You have to remember these things because this will come into play when you look at the whole thing, what Matthew's trying to say. Let's look at the next one. The next one is Josiah. This man was, as far as I would place him second only to David. Why? Explain in a second. We just learned that before Hezekiah, Israel was worshiping other gods. I just spoke. That was happening. Sorry. My brain, sometimes it goes faster than my mouth can move, so. Anyway, so they had basically forgotten about God. To the point where this man, Josiah, he found, or some of his men found in the temple, a book. We don't know literally what that book is, but most scholars believe it was, per se, Deuteronomy. And what he had found was the rules, the laws, and what not to do with God. And he, for lack of a better term, he freaked out. He was in awe and realized how wrong they were. And he went on a rampage and tore everything down and tore the kingdom, all the altars and all the other worshiping idols. Oh, he just tore them down around the whole kingdom. Even more than Hezekiah did. He went crazy. He went so crazy that in his zeal, he took off after an enemy of theirs, and he was killed in battle. His reign was very short. But in his time, he did so many great things. Here, the caption on this message, or this picture, was Josiah eliminating adultery. It's like they were reading the rules and eliminating this from the life of the Israelites. There are many more people on this list. You can go to the next one. So I'll talk about this now. There are many more people on this list. But I brought those ones out because that, in a nutshell, shows us what Matthew was trying to show us. Number one, this genealogy encompasses many people. It encompasses Hebrews and Gentiles, sinners. It encompasses the people of the world. Matthew wants Jews to know that this Messiah is not just for them. Let's go through the words now. And this is how I put it together, just in very simple form. This is basically the genealogy. In my Bible, and this is New American Standard on the board if you're wondering, the record of the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Wow. So he starts this out in a way that's very specific. It actually relates back to Genesis. The record, the origins of the story, the beginnings. Genesis is the same way. Matthew is purposefully making sure that everybody understands that this is the origins of something new. This is a new creation happening, starting over again. This is the new Genesis, found in this man here. This genealogy, at the time, it was a big deal. Genealogy was big to the Hebrews. One example I could give you was, after the exile, when they went back with Ezra and Nehemiah, the belief is that Ezra wrote Chronicles 1, 2, and what you find is there's genealogy in there. Why? Ezra wanted them to know that they related to these people. You're a Hebrew by this. This is who you are. And they were very big into that because there was no central thing they could really be a part of at this time. Matthew was written around the 60s or so, and yes, the temple existed, but these Jews would have understood what Matthew's trying to do in showing the genealogy, making sure they know who they are and who Jesus Christ is when you look at the bottom of the genealogy. So, Jesus the Messiah. This is the only place where Jesus the Messiah is listed. As that. Jesus the Messiah. Jesus the Christ. The rest of it is just Jesus or Christ. He puts them together because he's making sure they understand, guys, this is the one. This is the one that everybody has been waiting for. This is the one that all these men have been promised. And there is nobody else. He is the anointed one. He is the one come of God. This is the person that you have been waiting for. There is nobody else. Get excited. This is one thing I hope to give to you today is there should be excitement. We sang Joy to the World, maybe we sing it in a somber way because we need to sometimes to kind of bring things down. But I think we need to get more excited than we do about Jesus Christ. There is nobody else. There's nothing else to wait for. We've been given him. Those that have accepted him have nothing else but to serve him and the joy that's in that. There's no sense in finding anything else.
Amen.
So this is what Matthew's saying. He is the one. The one. There is no one else. The Son of David. What do we know now? The Son of David. He's a king. He's a royal. He's part of that line. He's not just some guy. So now Matthew is making sure they understand that not only he's I'm getting fast, aren't I? Not only is he the anointed one, but he is a royal line. He is a king. This is the King Messiah. In addition, we have the son of Abraham. He is also the son of promise. We know what Abraham was told so many years ago. And here it is now. It's interesting. I can't imagine what they would feel like if, you're living in this time where Jesus is alive. Let's talk about that first. These people that were there, not Matthew and the audience he's writing to, but the people that were there at the time. Like Bob and Tom and Rex will talk about. These individuals, they were real. What did they feel? How excited were they? Mary and Joseph, I am holding God in a bod. There's only one, and he decided to take his glory off and put on a human body. The next couple verses we're going to go through real quick. Abraham to David, 14. David to Josiah, 14. I listened to this in my Greek thing, but I don't know if that's right. Jeconiah to Jesus. Now, the last section is the exile. This is a difficult time for them because they were exiled from their country. They lived as being scattered about everywhere. And you had really nothing for them that was wonderful other than maybe the Maccabees that came and got the nation back, pretty large too, for about 100 years. So that was it. Other than that, they've been ruled by other people in that whole time. And so Matthew says, let me make sure I find here. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. David to the deportation, to the deportation of, from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. Now, this 14 generation thing is interesting. It has no bearing for us. We don't really care. But it has to do with priestly things. They viewed and they saw 14 generations in the high priest. You had from the Aaron to the temple was 14 generations of priests, and from the temple to the last priest was 14 generations. To them, this is showing something miraculous going on. When a Jew would have read this, they would have understood that Matthew's trying to tell them, again, this is not, we have a Messiah who is a king, and he also has priestly things going on inside him that we may not understand right now, but he is preached as well. So, as we look at all of this stuff here, go to the next slide, please, Daniel. I kind of made the other arrows kind of a little dimmer and made Jesus a little bit, a little gold arrow there. One thing that I wanted to share with you was when I was doing class this last semester, we were given certain things to post on, things to talk about. And one of the ones that I was given was, there was a gentleman that he claimed to be a Christian, and he read the Bible, and he believed that you could not find a historical, accurate Jesus Christ within the Bible. That's what he claimed to be. And my task was, explain why or why not you think he was or wasn't a Christian. Just my opinion. No judgment, just my opinion. What do I think about the Bible not being historically accurate? Does it affect my salvation? And I started thinking about it. Does it? Well, what if these are just ideas? What if, like most of us today, maybe closest thing I think of is maybe some kind of political party or something, but you have ideas, and you think if you follow these ideas that this good thing is going to happen. Well, if we think about Scripture as being just ideas, and if I follow these ideas, that something will happen, like an ideology. That's all it is then. But that's not the case. If Jesus Christ, if God did not come and become a man and die on a cross and spill his blood and raise again, then it's all a waste. He had to come in time and do the action in time. Because talking about it doesn't do anything. He actually had to do the act. These things had to happen in order for us to gain anything from it. Otherwise, all it is a bunch of, it makes me feel good when I act this way. It has nothing to do with that. It has all to do with what did he do. It's interesting, I was talking to my wife in the car. I think you can tell what a person believes about the Bible and how they act. If we believe that Jesus Christ really came, was really here right now, there would be things that we would be doing different right now. Because I don't have to wonder whether or not he's going to do this or that or the other thing. I know his character. But I know what he's going to do because he's real. And so I change what I'm doing in order to fit into what I believe that he wants me to do, because he's there. So let's talk about applying this. One thing that I think about a lot, and I pray about in our class, and this is the closing, so I just want you guys to know that. Hopefully no one leaves. Things I talk about sometimes in the college group. This again. Application. There are times where we think that if you just hear the words, that is enough. The design of the Scripture is that we understand by knowledge here what to do first. Then we experience God, that kind of knowledge, after we put the words and do something with them. This word, I'm going to share it like this. Aww. Yeah. I wasn't going to pick it up. Apparently that was a bad idea. This is kingdom words here. They speak from somewhere else. And they need to be lived. Otherwise they're worthless. They have to be understood as history, acted in as it's real, and then you experience the real God who is here. There is no other way to do it. You can go read Moby Dick if you want to do that. It doesn't matter unless you experience it by acting it out. It's not some kind of, you got to do the rules because God's going to get mad at you. It has nothing to do with that. You do the things he asks you because he wants you to experience him. Otherwise, you don't experience who he is. That is how you learn who God is. It's by experiencing him by action. So what do we do now? How do we apply this thing then? Maybe some have forgotten because all we hear are words. Maybe some have not really seen it acted out, and we sometimes forget that it should be. Well, I think we should start acting like it's real enough that it changes us. That's when you tell that it's real. Does it change what I'm doing? Or is it just some stuff? I think we as believers, sadly, and I'm going to use myself as an example because I think everybody needs to know kind of where I'm coming from. There are definitely times where I have forgotten that it's real. Not that I don't believe in God, but I have forgotten to act like it is real. And that's what I need to be doing. He exists. He works. He does things. He still is in the miracle business. I know. Isaac, come here. You don't have to do anything. I just asked you some questions. Get you stand up here. At least you didn't kick over the water like I did. So, how old are you?
9.
He's 9. What sport do you play? He plays baseball. What happened to you when you were 3? Do you remember what it's called? Jamboree. Thank you. You can sit right here for a second. So my son, when he was 3 years old, he had a disease, a syndrome called Jamboree. Basically, in a nutshell, it makes it so that the stuff in his brain does not get to his muscles. So there came a point where he could not breathe, and he had to be intubated, and he was in the hospital in ICU for 3 weeks, and then we did, he recovered in occupational therapy in the hospital for 2 weeks, correct here? And then we did about, I think it was 6 weeks, maybe 2 months of occupational therapy at the place. Remember that stuff? Remember going there with me? All right. There was a time where he couldn't move. We have images, I wish I'd have brought them. We have images of him, almost done. We have images of him where he was trying to grab a balloon that we were playing with him with. And his arms, he couldn't move them because he had what's it called, atrophy? He had been sitting for so long that his muscles had to regain their understanding of what to do. And here we are, 6 years later, he plays sports, and you can't tell anything was wrong with him. I forget that something was wrong with him. There's other things I could bring up, other things that I know. And I don't know everybody in here intimately, but I'm going to share something. I know that Matthew was born very premature. Well, how much did he weigh, and how premature was he? 2 pounds and 3 ounces? 32nd age. He is 35? 34? He's 34. Tom, has God worked out in our hearts relational issues? Has He in the past? And I would call that a miracle. You know, not you and I, working with you and I. You know, my point is that these aren't ideas. These are literal things that happen in our lives. Okay, Rob, if you want to come play that, cool. So, I talked about maybe some application things about maybe thinking about it and acting about it as real. For those that are of us that believe already. We believe, but what do we believe? We can tell what we believe by the things that we do. Do I do things that show that I believe that that will happen? God will do that thing or not? Because if I believe that that thing will happen in front of me, I will act a different way. If I believe that something will hold me up, I'll go ahead and lean on it because I know what's going to happen. But if I'm not so sure, I'm going to take it upon myself to stand on my own, deal with it myself. Another way would be if somebody here, maybe you have never heard of Christ before in this way. Maybe you never thought of it as being real. I'm going to tell you something. There are more manuscripts of the New Testament. There are 5,000 of them. That's more than any other historical document that we, for some reason, put faith in. People will find Atlantis on less than that. And we have more. And for some reason, we don't want to believe. God does not ask for blind faith. What He says is, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. Are you going to believe it? That's what He says. So this, I'm going to believe it whether I see it or not. I don't want you to go too far with that. Yeah, definitely there are things that we just don't understand because we're human beings. But the stuff we are supposed to believe by faith, He has given us something to believe. You know, Abraham, when he was told to go, people could say, well, that was by faith. No, it wasn't. God talked to him, and that God had never spoken to him before. That was not blind faith. So, for those of you that maybe you have never accepted the Lord, or maybe you're on your seat, or maybe you've kind of gone away and not really taking it like it's real, do it today. There is no other time. You don't know what's going to happen. You leave this door, you don't know.